With all the isekai that has come out in the past 10 years, I think we're all painfully aware that isekai shows most of the time teeters towards the trashier side of things. However, if you clicked on this video, I would assume that you're either an isekai fan or at least interested in getting into the genre, therefore wondering whether Kumo is going to be one of the more fine-tasting ones like Log Horizon, or would it be more on the piece of shit under your shoe side like Isekai Smartphone. Now, I'm not coming at this as a first impression. I've read the light novels and the manga, so I think that I do have a pretty solid base to answer the 3 questions that I'd like to tackle in this video. Number 1, is the anime worth watching? Number 2, is the manga worth reading? Number 3, are the light novels worth getting into? As well as the bonus question, is this series as a whole going to be worth the time investment basing off of what's going to happen later on in the story? Now that we've got that covered, let us yeet ourselves into the world of overly philosophical spiders and broken fantasy characters.
Okay man, let's do it!
What?
Basically, the premise of the story is that a whole classroom of regular Japanese students and their teacher gets transported in a fantasy world. Definitely have never heard of that before.
Deja vu.
However, the twist comes in the fact that our protagonist reincarnated as a lesser baby spider monster in the largest, most dangerous labyrinth in the whole world. So now she basically has to Dark Souls herself out of the labyrinth while her classmates live the isekai dream as they are reincarnated as princes, nobles, and adventurers. Now, you might be asking, isn't this the literal plot of Tensei Slime? No. The major difference here is that Rimuru of Tensei Slime has an overpowered cheat skill, so he's pretty much playing on like baby difficulty, while Kumiko gets a battle royale as soon as she's born, and her mother's like a dungeon boss that Adez threw in as soon as he spawned. There's 2 main selling points to this story that I'd say you'd need to be sold on in order to actually enjoy the show. Number 1 is Kumiko's progression. If you hate things like stats and skill progression in stories, then this is not going to be the show for you. One of the main highlights of Kumo is the fact that we're able to watch Kumiko struggle from being a low-level trash mob like a slime you'd fight with a twig in the earlier levels of an RPG game, to later on slowly getting stronger and stronger, challenging the higher level creatures and humans in this fantasy world. The other selling point is the fact that the story is told through multiple reincarnations. Kumiko is only one of the 26 people who got reincarnated, so we're constantly contrasting the lives of the characters until they eventually start to inevitably converge with each other later on in the story. So, first question, is the anime worth watching? So far, based on the 4 episodes that we've seen, as well as the amount of episodes that was promised, which is 24 episodes right off the bat, I'd say yes, the anime is worth it if you already like the isekai genre in general and you're just looking for a stupid fun show this season. It's going to be competing with the likes of Attack on Titan, Promised Neverland, Dr. Stone, and even the 2nd season of Tensei Slime, which I actually consider to be a better adaptation than Kumo, so it's going to be quite the uphill battle.
You just don't know when to give up, do you?
I can do this all day.
The main reason why I say that this is going to be worth it is completely based of what's going to happen later on in the storyline. Remember, right now at episode 4, we're still in the prelude. The anime is predicted to cover volumes 1 to 5 of the light novels, which means for those of you guys who only watch the anime, you're going to get the payoff of the setup that they've been building from the very beginning with the shifting POVs between Kumiko and the human characters. What I'm saying is that you're gonna get a pretty big nut out of the show. It's not gonna end like other light novel adaptations where they leave you hanging with a half chub in the middle of everything, because even in the novels, Volume 5 is the end of the first part of Kumiko's story. Moving on to the cons, there are 2 negative things that I do want to address just so I'm not just licking Kumo's ass here. I'd say the biggest cons with the anime version is number 1, the CGI. It's decent at some parts, but in its worst, it's literally Overlord Season 3 levels of bad. This is coming from someone who doesn't usually care about CGI, but here, since it gets used so much, it is honestly very jarring. I mean, just look at this fucking monkey. The other negative thing that I wanted to bring up was the pacing of the show, because it's going very fast. Now, I do understand why they're doing it, because you can't do a one-to-one adaptation from book to screen, but I am quite worried that anime-only viewers might not develop the attachment for the human characters necessary for certain payoffs in the storyline. I can actually already see some people getting pissed off at the human parts, especially Shun with how generic he is, but that's not what I'm worried about. Shun's whole point is that he is that generic fantasy character, and Kumo's point is to contrast all of that. The other characters, however, like Katya, Sue, and Faye, as well as the other characters that haven't been introduced yet, that should have been introduced, they're getting the short end of the stick here. Not to mention that they've already skipped parts that I would say are crucial for Kumoko's motivation moving forward. Her journey is literally Dark Souls levels of hard, but since the anime is going way too fast, the viewers don't really feel the struggle as much compared to the manga and the light novel. Aside from that, the anime is decent in my opinion. If you want to get into Kumo, I'd say the anime version is a way more solid choice than the manga. However, again, since this show is going to be competing with the juggernauts of the season, I don't blame people if this goes under the radar. Speaking of the manga, I absolutely would not recommend it. The manga for some reason decided to only cover Kumoko's side of the story, which is fun, don't get me wrong, but it's like watching Game of Thrones from only Daenerys' point of view. You're gonna miss 70% of the characters and the story, and you're not gonna know what's happening when the storyline starts to converge with each other. Not to mention all the world building that was lost because the POV is stuck in a dungeon. Would not recommend ruining it for yourself. Lastly, is the light novel and the series itself worth it? Yes, if you enjoy reading, the light novel is still the best way to experience Kumo. Not to mention that the world building and the story itself is a lot more interesting than it has any right to be. If I were to set your expectations and compare the story to other isekai anime, it wouldn't be at the level of stuff like Re:Zero and No Game No Life. I would even put it below stuff like Overlord and Tanya, but definitely higher than say Shield Hero. When it comes to isekai, you can't go wrong with Kumo. To summarize it all, Kumo Desu Nanika as a whole is something that I highly recommend as one of the better isekai stories out there. The anime version is honestly a little questionable at this point, but as long as they're able to deliver the story, it's still going to be good no matter what. I hope I was able to convince some of you guys to give Kumo a try. If yes, then feel free to leave a like on this video. It helps a lot with getting this out to more people. And if you'd like to see more, feel free to click the subscribe button as well. If there's any series or anything that you'd like me to make a video about, whether it's anime, light novels, or manga, just leave it in the comments below and I'd be more than happy to check them out. See you next week, guys. Bye bye.